Sound, music, sustainability. Welcome to Sustain FM. Hi, I'm your host, Steve Williams, and welcome to Sustain FM. And today I'm happy to welcome Polina Medvedeva and Andreas Kühne. I might have actually mispronounced both of those names in two different languages in one shot. And I'm excited to have them on the show today. Polina and Andreas create amazing sounds on their own and in collaboration, which is pretty cool. And together they play with narratives, community, shadow economies, human relationships with environments, and lots more. They also work with an impressive array of techniques, merging documentary filmmaking, AV performance, interactive installations, electroacoustic instruments, and introducing new ways of improvising live performance. And I can't wait to chat with them both and hear some sounds. So let's get into it. So first of all, welcome Polina and Andreas. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much, Steve, for inviting us. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's great to be here, Steve. Thanks.
You're great. You're most welcome. And so there's lots of things that I'd love to talk about, but one of the first things I'm curious about is really how site-specific your work is. And I mean, in a lot of sound art performances, there's a lot of sort of site-specific installations, but a lot of your work is very related to specific places through field recordings or site visits or histories. And I'm curious, what is it about that connection to place that inspires you or connects you to the sounds that you create?
I guess for me, site-specific means who is to tell stories and how well do you need to know a place. So, for example, for me, my urge to tell stories first started with the feeling that dominating narrative was not nuanced enough or did not contain enough layering or intersections and complications to embody the reality that was my own about places I knew and came from. So for context, that is, I was born in the 90s, Russia, a turbulent time full of economic pressure, uncertainty, and informal economies. And growing up in the West after that, the narrative of Russians was that of passive poverty-ridden people, while I had known it as a resilient place where new structures were built on the ruins of old ones, always distrusting and going around the corrupt and oppressive government. So I have to say that is absolutely then, right, in the 90s, that a lot of things have changed since. But just to mention that so in all of my later works, also in the context new to me, one of the most important things is to try and sense the energy of the place, right? So often hidden beneath stereotypical binary images, and to find and listen to the stories of people driving that energy and trying to convey what is important to them. So in the end, it's a lot about getting familiar with the place, really listening, letting go of the ideas you might already have about it, because life is always more complicated than that.
I guess for me, the lacking politics of listening in my own experience of institutionalized jazz music education led to engaging with the ambiguity of my own relations to place through field recording, which informs my experiments with the concept of feedback improvisation, which I'm currently researching. There's my PhD in electronic music and music technology at the UIT, the Arctic University of Norway. And I aim to look into sound as a multisensory mode of radical attentiveness and transformative imaginaries to face industrialization and subtle entanglements to human and more than human landscapes in Sápmi. Sápmi being an area home to the native Sámi people, which have been colonized and split between Russia, Finland, Sweden, and Norway. So I guess overall, I'm very interested in the landscape's capacity to store history and ways of being, where one event sits in relation to the other, and how we might interact with the genealogy as landscapes might also be seen as a pretext for histories that happen again and again. So it's also part of like situating myself, my practice, the tools I use, and learning about a specific region or place and kind of histories there.
Northern Sámi صدق قولي لم يحترم ده في الكارثة أفتنا بتوري كوكتل كل من بحكي نكسر نياتس مع موتكي سراوي بحكيس لحاولين قوي كاتي هاي ليت فاست هور كفال لدين تنجح يا تبوارس لحق لعين كوم هاي موسى قولن صايم والدا سوم سبايم سكوري سيام يجي كومش من أبوه فاقمو راني تسفيها نوره الإسعاد أنا يا كجاتي يا أتنا دعبريك وعلي نورن Lohjahtakin johti juike oli sielläkin. Voras luodi etnami. Kalkali lehki luodi on sai mei. Tienahti suonjääräs ja vinnuumisen luodi ja hintaa nojana. Lifti kun jatkan juika, sitten pesan en orrua. Liftin kun moona ei vahvan. Taiktaan mainis kältne kyllä tällä ja rahka filmaa juikamatilta vaihdaa se olu luodi jauke paiku johtiin huoneen. Kun paikalla puolti kuulua, te luomme kahdet. Äidä niillä kallis, ja vuotta päältä mieltä. Akta puolus paiku johtamii, reihti luohti jaskudi.
That's fascinating. I mean, I can see a lot of connections and intersections between the way the both of you are looking at that. And one of them sort of strikes me as this idea of sort of borders and boundaries. Polina, when you were talking about sort of histories of geographical boundaries that shift, and borders that shift, and geographies that shift, and sort of artificial legal boundaries that are drawn that sort of separate peoples and so on. I'm curious, was that kind of connected to the piece around cross-border interference? Because I was very interested in this idea of the tactile feedback and the feedback improvisation that you were just talking about, Andrea. Was that inspired the choice of that location, the fact that it was on a border? And also, can you talk a little bit about what that sort of tactile feedback improvisation is?
Yeah, absolutely. This was very much related to also my PhD being in Sápmi in the northern region, and Polina and me had been doing several residencies at Pikenobobruan. It's an art center in Kirkenes, which is on the Norwegian side of Sápmi, a small town that borders with Russia and Finland, and has a very it has very many historical layers that intersect, let's say. So we've been visiting that place several times, and during our research, we were actually following the Pacific River, and the border with Russia runs in the river, in the middle of the river. So the border pole marks, of course, the Norwegian territory. And it was during this research that I was also experimenting with the concept of feedback improvisation, not just in a metaphorical sense, as in that the landscape also informs your actions, but also in a very tactile and
direct way.
A direct way, yeah. Like I'm working with a technology that uses exciter speakers, which use a resonance surface to vibrate sound within material, and also microphones that listen through material. And if you kind of connect them both, for example, I had these set up with the border pole, and it generated the feedback inside the border pole. So that kind of resonance, in a way, for me, activates certain the histories, but also my relation to it. And whilst we were recording, actually, I had a few microphones that were also pointing towards the river as a way of inviting the river into the recording. And we heard a car approaching, and we, of course, no idea what was going. I was kind of just focusing on the sounds from the border pole, and then all of a sudden, I see some military men actually running out of the car towards a boat, and they were gonna, which I assume was a military drill. And it was suddenly very close. I mean, of course, we all know about the training that happens there since day and age, and of course, also the very heavy military history with the Second World War and today's presence, of course. So it became very vivid in a way, the kind of geopolitical tensions and the access of water and so on. And we were debating whether we should keep on going and like documenting this moment. And we chose to turn off the camera, but let the sound roll. And so because the microphones were pointing towards the river, you can actually hear the soldiers running towards the boat and then taking off. And I decided to also continue performing with the border pole, and the kind of resonant frequencies of the border pole then also started to kind of layer with the boat. And so it was quite an interesting moment, and something that is very particular for this region.
music. Oh yeah. Zullen we een pauze maken? Zullen we een pauze maken of niet? Zullen we varen? Ja, misschien...
That's incredible. I mean, it's another layer of, I guess, the feedback and improvisation of actually improvising with those unexpected changes in the environment that happen. Like you probably couldn't have predicted that the soldiers would roll up and be in the boat, which would connect. And which is actually kind of a lead into another question I had, because you talked about the different technologies there and the exciter speakers, the microphones and so on. And I know you both work with a lot of technology in your research and your performance. And I'm always curious with people that are in this world working with the tech. And I'm curious, maybe for both of you, was it sort of like the were you interested in the technology first and then getting more into sound and music, or was it kind of the other way around, where you were already interested in sound and music and then started getting more into the tech side?
Yeah, for me, I think definitely during my master's at the Sandberg Institute in Amsterdam, the art school masters, my teachers were really trying to convey to us to work in any medium that suits the stories you'd like to tell.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've always been curious to these new formats or intersections of disciplines and new ways of presenting and sharing a narrative. And I guess that's maybe what an art academy then allows you to do, to take time to experiment. And so for me, it's always story first, let's say, and then what is the most fitting way to tell this story. And so because of this, I find myself having worked with quite a lot of mediums, ranging from printed matter and documentary to live performance and sculptures and text. And so I think it's this way around for me, but I'm not sure, Andreas.
Yeah, I have like I said, a background in playing jazz music as a drummer, or improvised music, and afterwards, I was trying to find a sort of relation or a way to kind of contribute to improvised music that has been created from my own perspective. And it actually started with a project that Polina was commissioned to do, and she invited me into which was in a context that was very unfamiliar for me. It was also in Murmansk region in Russia, and I had no connection to that area. So for me to kind of make music from Amsterdam, where we were based, and it did make sense. So I chose that I would limit myself to only invite the sounds from Murmansk, and so that was for me a starting point into working with field recording and kind of thinking about this critical positionality. And we're also I started to improvise with the kind of materiality that you would find there, which you maybe would see, but not necessarily hear unless you interact with it. So it was also a way of revealing both myself and the materiality of the city. And that became then the kind of sort of the architectural and the material structure for the sounds that I was making and composing. And this continued, and I'm working on similar like ideas that were based in that first project, let's say. So I would think that it's just a way for me to relate to place, to work with this technology that allows you to kind of deepen your experience with different sensory modes, let's say.
Interesting. All right, so on that sensory mode, one of the things I find interesting about when I'm playing with technology and sound is the ways you can access sort of different senses through geophones or ultrasonic microphones or hydrophones. And when I say different senses, different in the sense of what humans can actually perceive, because obviously different species have different senses. And Polina, I know you've done some interesting work with electromagnetic radiation and trying to, or from my interpretation of what you're doing, of translating that sense into a way that people could actually understand the sort of hidden things that are all around you. And I'm curious, what was the interest in that for you, and how did that show up in because that was actually part of a interactive installation that you put together with those, what were they called? The Loam microphones, I think?
Loam Audio has produced them. They're like electromagnetic microphones.
Right.
And I think definitely this was, first of all, also triggered by my collaboration with Andreas, because he came with these microphones first, and it was just lucky that being a resident at the Rijksacademie at that time allowed me to actually make them. And so we were talking about how useful these workshops would be to print them and to laser cut them and to make them ourselves. And I believe we were working towards a workshop when also all of this let's say the full-scale invasion of Russia into Ukraine unfolded. And so for me, it was then absolutely important to make a work about that. And I was already thinking a little bit about self-censorship and censorship. And for me, the electromagnetic microphones, actually, they refer to this wiretapping technique to intercept phone conversations that was used in the Soviet Union and also in GDR, and even actually for partisans in Norway who, as Norwegian state, feared would use their ties with the Soviets after the Second World War to collaborate and pass information during the Cold War. So I thought about this principle, and in the first place, wanted to show the absurdism of the Russia's full-scale invasion into Ukraine, where all who were speaking out against it were called spies and foreign agents by the Russian state, while the government has actually been installing censorship and monitoring, and later also criminalizing anti-war rhetoric. So it was this world turned upside down for me. And to refer to that, I wanted to create a space where audience would become voyeurs or foreign agents or accomplices, kind of activating this space that maybe in the first glance feigns normalcy, because that's the cool thing, right, about electromagnetic microphone. You can't, with your ears, you can't perceive these sounds. Yet when you wear it, then suddenly this whole other world comes alive. And so that's where you see that up is down, let's say. So the result was, I see it as a film, although, as you say, it wasn't more of an interactive installation. But for me, it's a film because it has, let's say, 12 scenes taking place, but then on the other side of the walls, reachable through these melting porcelain power sockets that each of them house these coils, copper coils, which then have sound recordings, which you can intercept, let's say, using this microphone. And that itself then refers to, as I was saying, to the wiretapping in the Soviet Union, but also to people to people in their houses, very, very aware of this this mechanism and this breach of their security, let's say, and so leaning into the power sockets after critical remarks, assuring whoever is listening that they were only jokes. So for me, it became this assemblage of conversations intercepted, listened in on, recalled, that we're attempting a search for the origin of the atrocities, the trust in disinformation, this passive endurance this time, as well as the sparks of civil disobedience amid the censorship and decline of civil rights. So it is a very heavily political work, but I think that the technology really painted that picture, if you will, that really kind of made it come alive, that creepy feeling of being trapped in this place.
That's why I love that idea of the. Actually, let me rephrase that. I don't love the idea that the world is being turned upside down. But I find it, fascinating that, that way of listening in and disrupting. And the other thing that sort of sparked from there, you mentioned that as the piece was evolving at the beginning, you're actually working towards doing a workshop. And I know you both do workshops on field recording and building equipment and so on. I actually met you in Tromsø at the Arctic Auditories workshop. And I'm curious, what is it about the work, sort of organizing and doing workshops, that draws you? Is it around the education part? Is it around connecting to communities or connecting to place or something else?
I mean, Andreas will have your own story, but I think for me, I think we both really like to teach, and both have been teaching for over a decade. And it's not in order really to pass on ways of working in a one-sided hierarchical manner, but to test formats together, to exchange with the students, to reflect on our fields and the developments in them. And we have actually started to develop a workshop module together with each new work, it seems, also as a way of starting this conversation, sharing the research, broadening broadening the conversation surrounding topics and methods, and as a way also for us to practice attuning and adapting the technology, the methods and research questions to different types of participants, right? Whether young people or bachelor master students or PhDs. And I also remember the most valuable things I've learned from my teachers is the to trust the experiment and to follow your energy across disciplines and into, new fields, into the unknown. And I think this urgency to go into the direction that's closest to you and that matters most to you is what I would also like to pass on to students.
Absolutely. I actually don't have much to add to that. It's a way of meeting people and spending time together. It's about, like Polina said, in a way, opening up our practices, our works in a different way, in a way that is centering them, the participants, and it's also inviting their voice into the discourse, where we can, be critical of certain ways of working. Where, for example, as Mark Peter Wright also mentions when he was citing Kofi Agawu about field recording technology itself, being part of the colonizer's toolkit, and all the discussions around, what is an objective recording, let's say, versus that it's actually always subjective. So it's I don't know, it's a way of speaking. Speaking about the technology and about how we relate to place, and then finding, just kind of multiple voices to answer those critical questions that we have.
That's really fascinating. That this idea of bringing people's voice in and sort of drawing them into your work and being critical, because one of the questions that I ask all my guests is kind of how you see yourselves on kind of what I call an audience understanding spectrum. And I'm very fascinated by different people's answers to this, because there's very different answers. And by that, I mean, when artists, so for example, with my own work, when I'm performing with plants on stage or climate data turned into sound and those kind of things, I'm always sort of going back and forth in terms of one end of the spectrum being, I make everything really, really obvious. And it's so clear, it kind of feels like a lecture or a public service announcement, which is sometimes not that aesthetically interesting. And the other end of the spectrum is it's so conceptual, so esoteric that the audience has no idea what's going on and they don't really understand the piece. And of course, it's usually not either or, it's kind of along that spectrum. And I was going to ask sort of where you see yourselves on that spectrum and how important it is that the audience connects to your message. But the answer that you were just talking about there, it almost, when you mentioned around doing the workshops with each piece, it sounds to me kind of you're almost putting another dimension onto that spectrum, or sort of breaking the boundaries of that, where it's not just the audience receiving, but actually being part of the actual creation of the piece somehow. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it is very important to us to also think of that different people connect in different ways. And for some, it might be going to see an exhibition or a performance work, or to some, it's maybe they have their own practice and would like to kind of find different inputs for that, or are interested in listening and just want to engage with that. So I feel that with the works we do, we often try to find different ways of inviting people into a context or into a method, and for the performances themselves, of course, we've experienced in a sense that it's maybe challenging to understand what it is we're doing, because we are behind the computers and you're watching films. So a part of it is kind of mysterious, to use a very boring word for it. But for us, it's important just to be there when we do live performance, like live film performances, to also show in a way that there are people behind the film that are making the choices, that, there's a very subjective kind of perspective where we've chosen how to point the microphone. And also within film, for example, in documentary film performances that we're doing, it is the role of the editor also that kind of makes the narratives. And by positioning ourselves in front of the screen, that becomes somehow very clear. And maybe you would like to add to that, Polina?
You're
So, I mean, yeah, that's something that we're, also the fact that the audience is there and they can see that we are interacting, and for us, it's a way that the film also, keeps getting new iterations. Let's say we are able to respond to the moment. So it might be that the kind of social political situation changes throughout the time that we present a certain work, or that different sites also kind of ask different responses, or like different ways of presenting, where maybe in one site we choose to have more narrative, and in the other one it's more kind of focusing on the sound aspect and the kind of and the visuals that can extend. I mean, it's also a way of one thing that was important for us is to, for example, with the work we're doing now, is to find ways to have the audience also critically reflect on what's happening, and also maybe think about their own kind of situations. And there was there's a writer, Dylan Robinson, in his book Hungry Listening, he writes about how the Brechtian, like he calls it this non-native aesthetic strategies as a way of contributing to indigenization, let's say, or and he recalls this Brechtian Verfremdungseffect, where in a way theater is he used it as a tool to also break the flow, to kind of not have the audience immersed and kind of in the mood all the time, but like to purposely break that flow, to start questioning, for people to start questioning what is going on. And this is something that we're also trying to do by, being in front of the stage is already like, okay, why are they doing this? And then it might, create different.
And I guess that goes back to your saying that different audiences will interact in different ways. And I think there it goes back for me to Steve, your question in the beginning, which was indeed quite binary. And I think it's really nice that you see something in our practice that maybe transcends that. But for me, I'm struggling with this question, because I think for me it's, do you make the work for the fellow artists or for a broader audience? And specifically when it's documentary work, right, that it also portrays certain communities or people. I'd have to say for us, I feel like it's a bit of both, because on the one hand, it's the most important, maybe if you have to say it's a bit of both, it's very important that people in the work can appreciate it and feel that they are represented in the same way as how they see themselves. That's always like the biggest compliment to me when I show them the work before it's screened, and they say, yeah, it's how it is, kind of like, not even that excited about it, because just kind of like that's the truth as they know it. So, or maybe truth is not the right word here in this context, but that's how they see themselves as well. But that's, I think, where my biggest responsibility kind of lies. And on the other hand, this urge to think of new formats, cross disciplines, and experiment with ways of telling stories, and that's kind of what Andreas was just mentioning now, is arguably more interesting to a fellow art crowd, or more academic crowd. So, and both of these are valid and are interesting to our practice. It's just like, who do you want to, like, which aspect do you want it to communicate to whom? And the one is, I guess, more us working on talking a little bit about the field that we're in, and the other one is about the content, right? So what we try to portray. So I'd maybe say like 60-40, closer to the message of broader audiences.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for that answer. I mean, I kind of deliberately make it an either or, to kind of make it a bit more of a provocative kind of thing. But it usually is a blend. And but I found it's very interesting thinking about these different sort of communities and different audiences, and sort of what do we mean by community, and what is that engagement, and on that community note, one of the last questions I have for you here is, I know you've both worked on the Informals project in Brighton through several iterations. Andreas, you mentioned about how performances and things can sort of iterate and change over time. And I'm curious, how did working with the community there influence the composition and performance? And I guess I'm interested in that question at points in time, but also this idea of if I understand it properly, this performance collaboration has evolved over time. So I'm imagining that influence might have been different at different points of time.
Definitely. I think first and foremost, it was actually the kind of context of the film being exploring lives and stories of Brighton youth in a time when the political climate is not representative of them. And we met loads of people who used their music culture to challenge stigmas, such as music inciting to violence, and stereotypes to reclaim public spaces, focusing on community and well-being. And it was also for that reason, actually, that I really felt challenged in a sense that I would want to make something that they would, in a way, feel comfortable with in terms of which sounds are accompanying the conversations with us and the kind of the issues that they bring forward. And also, since they are all musicians themselves, I envy all of them because they're really, really good, and each in their own way. And then I wanted to stay true to my own kind of makings, and but also dedicated, of course, to them. And one thing that became really important for us was actually to find a way to for example, open up the center, because they were talking about this, that they wanted to, in a way, also be in the center of Brighton. They were very much kind of forced to the outskirts, so we had a first performance actually on the central square, and they performed. 3 of the protagonists in the film were performing with us, and they were performing their own music. So it was not really in the sense that they, had to kind of do our thing. But it was great to have those 2 together, and to have the stories and the kind of deepening and how we have been speaking with them over time and meeting them quite often. And then to have them there and sharing their own things and using their lyrics to convey like certain topics that are at that time very important to them. And this work we've shown again as a 360 iteration. So with the sound was actually stereo, but the video was 360 at the Old Market in Brighton. And we are sharing a snippet of that performance as well. So you'll hear actually the other performers, Phonetic, Bobby Johnson, and Marshall Mandiago in there.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, well, we'll definitely share that clip, and that's probably a good time to wrap up. I'm just looking at the time to make sure we have enough to share some sounds. So, well, thank you very much, Polina and Andreas, for talking today, and thanks to everyone for listening. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to the sounds that we heard, the performances, more info about Polina and Andreas's work, and we'll also include links to some of the technology we mentioned, as well as some of the writers that you mentioned, Dylan Robinson's Hungry Listening, which is a super cool book. So we'll include some links to those things so people can find out more. So thanks very much to both of you for your time, and can't wait to hear some sounds.
Thank you
Thanks
so much,
Steve.
Steve. Yeah, nice to talk with you.
You too.
Me starting over it shouldn't be anything new, but like it's a very scary thing. It's just like, it's literally been very embedded in from such a young age for me to literally go to a new house and start over and then like say it again.
My people, my friends, Amsterdam.
Yeah, that's what this is give me that. That's what I'm doing. Shit.
It's doing crazy ass shit. When I first started rapping an open mic night called Sit Jam, and that was where I first met. And most of the people I know now, to be honest, that are my friends and family. But that night doesn't exist anymore, so we needed another open mic night that was similar, that would bring people together. go started this one, and everyone comes through. So it's like a family of rappers.
Read that text by Malcolm X and decide which way is best to practice on our rest. The revolution will imply everything is possible. But bottle up the flow, like every involve it with just lots upon the sitting rock and the earth.
I can't not talk about controversial subjects. My life has been subject to controversial things. I didn't have a great upbringing. I never had two parents looking after me at once. I never had money. I never had men there alone that I didn't grow up. So I'm not going to try and pretend like I am this well-off person, because I'm not. And the way I deal with childhood trauma and things like that is through my music. So I'm a product of my environment.
Strange thing really, I think there's like two Brightons basically, fringes, outskirt areas, like Whitehall, Angleton, Old School, so like the youth there are quite different to like the youth in the middle of Brighton, I guess, and there's a lot of people that are on fringes, and so Brighton's meant to be just like, I don't know, like middle class, kind of like heaven or something, where everyone eats, so they're like having fun with those something. But really I think there's a lot of kids that don't experience that, you know what I mean? And I think we didn't really experience that growing up, do you know what I mean? It's like different Brighton for some people.
And I never really fit in like the UK hip-hop scene at all, really. And one of my mentors in this thing was like, why the fuck are you trying to fit in like create your own lane? So I've always come to that now, just letting my music evolve with, you know.
Take steps, try my life, put down.
I understand that if you judge a fish by his ability to climb a tree, you're gonna live life thinking that he's an idiot, and that's not the case. So sort of like, just because you don't fit in that scene and that wall of, you're not passing this way, so you're done. But everyone's intelligent and like a genius in that sort of way, that's what I believe.
What's going on, kid? I did, Brian, you right? Yeah. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling. Talk to us. Yeah. Big the informal with Pat. And I'm fucking up this venue. I'm gonna take a seat for this one, right? Let's take a cool seat. Yeah. There are some people who's like, yeah. Alright, look. See, there's dogs scrounging and wagging their tails, Adidas sagging. I'm pro for something different, but everyone's on the wagon. The beggars are chasing dragons. Atoms are forming patterns, a sequence of everlasting deceitfulness as it happens. I'm taking this shit to Saturn. Searching for higher powers, desired higher than towers. I'm biding these tiger hours. The flowers begin to bud and they blossom in April showers. See, we miss the beauty of life indulging in hours. Certain people need to leave me alone, seemingly evil. Distant people want computers at home, computing unknown. Understand that we are not bones, but we're an entity of transcendental spiritual codes, you get me? So be easy and claim your peace. Or breathe wheezy and hate police. Reclaim the streets, the roadmen, Tain and Neats. Refrain from seat. Shook enough to stay in their sheets. The strange release, cause suddenly I'm chatting the truth. Back in the booth, batting away the arrogant views. These arrogant youths are spreading out wildfire. It's epidemic. We forget it's generics, parents take the credit. See society spinning in down spirals. As ladies in little skirts and the perks will cop an eyeful. Telling you how it is, my intentions are never spiteful. Poor get poorer and richer, living delightful. I was the stifle and cry for the children suffering, starving in need of mothering, love and a load of other things. In Britain we be conditioned by all the sorcery. You beg your mum and dad for a watch or maybe another bring. So mind your P's and Q's and try to remain in harmony and find yourself a hobby, cause music is really calming me. I don't concern myself with people who are harming me as long as blood is pumping through every one of my arteries. I think it's time for togetherness as a whole. Academia won't determine your cleverness or your soul. Enticing you into fashion, covering you in gold, and you're blinded by your endeavors and all of your future goals, but still. They feel superior, making us feel inferior. Driving your cruddy Audis and flossing your new material. I'm sick of hearing you talking your criteria, seeding them to believe in delirium through your medias. I find it sad to see people that I've invested in falling for all the bullshit and never thinking of questioning. I've seen my brothers relying on crack and heroin, swallowing what they're telling them, demonizing their melanin, and closing their speakers pressured and acting feminine. Like the powers will revel in something, someone's settling. Son is reaching out to his father to try and let him in. The bastard went and left him and didn't think about telling him. Discover your roots and see who's seedy. I see all the people scheming on me and my bag of freebies. I'm paving the way for women to speak freely. It's easy enough to burn your on a blank CD. Let's go! Fucking house, let's be a mouthful. Let's get it. So something about the way you are, the way you pass, in and out of this realm, in and out of this hell, illuminating the sky as a brightest star, collaborate. A beautiful destruction and a whole corruption, blown away, an explosion of consumption, past, thrown away. No more money black and the desperately a sanctuary to comfort sanctimonious beings telling you how the fuck it exists. Now fuck that shit, man. I can see your stress, even when you feel weakest. I can be there if you need, or you want. Get up shelter when the weather is deepest. I won't grow you, but we give you the tools to grow yourself. Focus, synthesize, and rise around with limited sunlight. Gray skies, but there's always a partition in them now. There's always a partition in them now. You're a queen, just missing the crowd and choose to be found in the depths of your mind. Just open it up, just open it up. You're a queen, just missing the crowd and choose to be found in the depths of your mind. Just open it up, but I'm the one. How do I change your mind? You pick up that knife and that's that shit. How do I show you your worth and treat to believe? Just put in that word you know you deserve. When you don't give her the secrets that hidden and truth, bidding your riddles and demons that holding you back in the system that's written to brush up and Christ. You're a beautiful being and I'm singing and freeing and rattling in front of me. But when they straight back, you will cover the injury, bubbling, troubling. I'm seeing the suffering mystery. Just hold up, holding your hand in this mystery. Slow down there, everything you care, look to the future of visionary. Say there's something bad where you are, and now there's something bad where you was. In and out of this realm, in and out of this hell now. And that's my Emma Rugel, Emma Rugel. My Emma Rugel, Emma Rugel. My Emma Rugel, Emma Rugel. Please ask me for help, please ask me help.
I don't need to be in a concentration. I can hear you name the party constellation. Baby, you're fine, you don't need an explanation. Can't be on your love because I'm buying out of patience. Ooh, I'm struggling. I suppose I gotta need it on time. Transmission on open. It's going down sugar. The way you get something down here.
Don't mean to break it concentrated. If it's any constellation, break it concentrated. I was thinking perfect constellation. Break it concentrated. If it's any constellation,
how do it? How do it? Man, got me thinking about you, baby. Everything makes you feel even though it's simple, baby, for the same thing. We are so connected by the stars. Nothing against what is going on. Oh, how the hands of the sky is great. All you need to do is wake up. Now that we got the street, when I'm with you, babe. Listen to your heart when you're next to me. Maybe you can be my only melody. When I think of your body just next to me. Making love to you is a therapy. When I hold you, I put you next to me. Whenever you know that it's a melody. When you're on the phone, it's when you're telling me. I just need you next to me. Don't leave me
Thank you, I love you. I love you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks for listening to Sustain. Hope to catch you again next time. Be sure to sign up for our email list on our website, sustain.fm. Follow our Instagram, also sustain.fm, and get more info on the radio show, in-person events in different cities, live streams, and more. All right, until next time, see you on the dance floor.